What is going on, everybody? It's Captain Blue Shell coming to you guys today with another Lost Ark video in preparation of Lost Ark coming over to the West. Super excited for it. And today we're going to be going over two different class types that you might be familiar with if you play different MMOs. It is very true with this game that you do not get a dedicated tank class. You do not get a dedicated healing class. But the two classes of support and DPS, we are going to be going over those two real quick here in this video. Stick around. It's Captain Blue Shell.
Well, if it isn't Captain Blue Shell.
Hold up. Captain Blue Shell, what do you mean that there is no tank and there is no healer? Well, there are classes that feel like they could be a tank, that they could be a healer. Basically, for instance, there's the warrior. Different classes here, it feels tanky, right? It feels like big and bulky, and you just kind of run in and you just, take this huge sword and you just start slaying enemies. Basically, that is what you do. But it's not going to be a class in which you're going to be running in first and trying to get all of the enemies onto you. It's not like that. It's not something that we're used to with other MMOs. Essentially, all of the classes in this game are DPS classes, and basically it comes down to you knowing what ability to do at the right given time, whether it's a group of enemies or the boss, of what procedure you guys have to go through. You guys are going to be dealing out damage. That's your thing in different ways, different forms, whether it's casting or getting up close with the melee. It just all depends on what you feel comfortable with, except for two major classes we're going to be going through, like I said today. The first is going to be your Holy Knight. Basically, this is going to be Paladin. As it hits to the West, as we know it as a Paladin. It's your classic Paladin, except with a little more oomph. It's got a lot of attacks, but with this and Bard is going to be your second class. They give your team buffs, and basically they give them shields. So essentially it's a support class, but at the same time you're going to be knocking back some damage, definitely, for sure. So let's go ahead and start off with the Bard. We are going to be making our Bard as an actual subclass if support is the right role for you. And like I said, if it's not support, it's going to be some form of DPS. So let's go ahead and get into it right now, shall we? So perfect case in point is when we're just now starting off with our class with the subclasses. We look at Arcana and it's telling us the magic deck gauge for RNG cards. We've got the Summoner, when we have enough energy for an energy gauge, ancient energy gauge, guys, I know it's crazy. The Sorceress, to increase your casting speed, and then we get to Bard. And Bard, it shows your Serenade gauge. It says for heals and affects party members. That is the most important part at the very end, is that it affects your party members for its main abilities. Also, too, another pretty good indication is going to be your graph up here, basically where it says support. So Arcana, we really don't have any. Summoner, we pretty much have nothing. Sorceress, a little bit, but nothing in terms of anything at all. Bard, booyah, that's where you want to be with your support class. So we will go ahead and preview the class, preview the abilities, and I'll kind of show you what I'm getting at here. So you're probably thinking, oh good, we have a Bard, we're going to be showered with abilities of buffs and healing, every single ability that they have. That's not the case, although you would be happy to have one on your team. And I want you guys to take a look at the abilities here. So with Bard, all of your abilities here, the top row and the bottom row, all of these are damage attacks. So you're definitely going to be going ahead, dishing out the damage as much as you can, which in turn is going to be filling up these three bars in the center. Now, what do these three bars do? Well, basically, once you get even one of them filled up, you get a choice of two special abilities that you can use for your team. The first option that we have is going to be the Serenade of Valor, and basically this is a buff for your entire team. It says minstrel damage on 120 seconds, 2 minutes you get this, increased by 15%. Okay, so basically your minstrel damage up 15%, pretty awesome. And then it says, in addition, depending on the number of executed chords, which basically these bars here, remember the three bars? those are our cords. So we can have 1, 2, or 3 cords filled. It says depending on those, the damage of the minstrel and her companions in the radius of 24 meters. So as long as your team is within 24 meters of you, on 8, 12, or 16 seconds, depending on those bars, is going to be increased by 5%, 10%, or 15%. And also, this skill cannot be interrupted by knockback effects. Basically, it means that if an enemy hits you, it's not going to affect you casting this at all whatsoever. I know you may be a little confused about the numbers, but it's actually relatively simple. When it says 8, 12, or 16 seconds, with either 5, 10, or 15% of that increase, and that's going to matter on how many bars you fill. So that's going to make you think as a bard, and you're going to have to think, okay, should I go ahead and use my buff now if you only have 1 bar filled, or should I go ahead and continue to fill up my second bar, maybe give them a little bit more of a buff with longer time? That's going to be up to you. Very reason why I love how this game dishes out your abilities. It makes you think, and it's kind of like a puzzle. You're kind of like figuring out which would be best, either time spent, kind of storing up for a much better buff, or should you go ahead and give them the buff now, since it's quicker, they might need it right now. They also, too, the same thing goes for the second ability that we have, which is going to be your heal, which is the Serenade of Salvation. Ooh. And it says the effectiveness of this skill depends on the number of chords played. Again, the 3 chords that we can go ahead and fill up during 14, 18, or 24 seconds in duration. The minstrel restores its health and the health of its associates in the amount of 4% from maximum volume to 8 times, 6% from maximum volume to 12 times, or 8% from maximum volume to 16 times, which is pretty awesome. But again, you have to think about it. You have to think about the bars that you're filling and when to use this ability. And that isn't at all to say that this class isn't much of support. If you're in a team, you're going to want a bard because of this. This is definitely your life force. This is what's going to keep you alive and keep you going. But I like how the game applies that everybody does DPS. Everybody's active. Nobody's back in the back, relaxing. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and just cast this. All right. Oh, he's almost dead. There we go. Okay, cool. You are in the fight. You're going to be fighting. But at the same time, you got to think, okay, how much of my teammates need as much health as they can? What percentage do they need? Should I wait until 3 bars are full? Are we good for 2 bars? And that is going to be your expertise, is knowing when to heal them, when to give them buffs. And it's going to be a lot at first. There's going to be a lot riding on you, but at the end game, at the end of all of this game, you are going to be one of the most sought after subclasses in the entire game. And I mean, there is plenty of time to get good. You've got all game to go ahead and get these skills down and kind of, just understand what you need to do. So basically, the attacks are, basically just plain and simple. A lot of them are just casting attacks. Now, bards are not, completely, powerful. They're not like all powerful, like, oh, this is gonna do damage and wipe out waves of enemies, and I get to do buffs. The damage is okay for what it does. The range is okay for what it does for a bard. And see, I can still attack. I can still kind of run around. I'm still definitely flexible as a bard. But at the same time, down here, these bars are going to make and break you. So I can either go ahead and do a heal now if I need to, or do a buff, or I can go ahead and keep on damaging as many people as I can and waiting for that second bar to go ahead and add up. It's all up to me whether you live or die. And so let's go ahead with another wave here, just kind of get these attacks, kind of underway. And I'm really not doing anything. I'm just kind of going over, each row by row. To be honest with you, I'm not even sure what all of these abilities do. I'm just kind of feeling out Bard, and it really is a great support class in a game in which you don't have a dedicated class to heal or a dedicated class to tank or anything. I'm going to go ahead and just bring our bar up to 3 bars, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to be using the buff instead of the heal. I really don't need to heal, but as long as we can like use the buff and kind of see what differences, if we have any, I think that would be pretty cool. If this guy will go ahead and die, there you go, nice. And so I'm gonna go ahead and spawn a boss, but before I do that, my third bar is just about filled. And so once we get 3 bars, what do we know when our 3 bars are filled? We know that within 24 meters, all of our teammates, for 16 seconds, the damage is going to increase by 15%. That's a lot. That's actually a lot riding on you and a lot that your teammates are going to be counting on you. But like I said, this class is definitely going to be worth it if you're used to support and used to doing it. And there we go. There it is. I'm going to try to get out of the way. Nope, because I suck. There we go. Okay. I dodged his attack there. Nope, no, run. Get out of the way. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do it now. And we'll go ahead. And now since we're buffed up, we'll be a little bit stronger along with our teammates and everybody else. It gives you a good feeling because you're doing a lot. You know, you're actually there for your teammates. And yes, it is going to happen in which teammates are probably going to yell at you and ask, you know, what are you doing? You know, why are you doing that? It's going to happen in game. But if you play with people that you know and people that trust you and that you trust, it's going to be fine, and it's going to be worth it too. And this is what I really like about it though too, is because we still have Valor on, and it still shows you the time limit of what you have left. It says damage increased by 15%, which is good. So basically we just go ahead, we continue to kick butt. And also too, at this point in time, we're still building up bars. We're still building up our cords. And so it's not like we're just, you know, out here hanging out doing nothing, just casting. We're extremely active. We're trying to get this guy down as best as we can, and it's going to help everybody in the long run. All right, here we go. We're going to go ahead. Hopefully we can get this guy down quickly here, especially with our buff too. I'm hoping so. Nice. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so he died outside of the barrier there, so cool. So yeah, I mean, that's our bard in Lost Ark. It's very important for you to focus on how many bars you need, how many cords. Also to make sure that you're keeping your teammates within the radius, that everybody is good to go, that you're helping out, that you're fighting, dealing out damage as much as you can do. Also to, with the healing, the salvation, as it said with the radius, there's a reason as to why. Once you click it, or once you click the X, this is the amount of space that you get for healing. So if your teammates are scattered out everywhere, you're going to have to choose, or if they group up, you can go ahead real quick, do that, and go ahead and try to heal them up as best as you can. So basically, people are going to be running around, people are going to be running into the circle, out of the circle, whatever the case might be, for whatever they need. Basically, that's going to be you. You know, it's essentially, it kind of reminds me of kind of like a, you know, like a bubble effect. In fact, I think it is a bubble effect in which people are running in, and you're going to need to place that strategically too as well. So pay attention, and if you're with the bard, best of luck. I know you're going to have fun. And last but not least, guys, on our second out of the 2 support classes that we get, let's go ahead and take a look at the Holy Knight, or as we know it from the West, the Paladin. Coming up, here we go. Let's get right into that too as well. And we're going to go ahead and be naming him Big Chuck. Okay, sure. So basically, as we can see it on our little diagram up here again, support all the way up, and it says attack enemies to fill the faith gauge. They just have different names for the gauge on every single character. It's just confusing. When full, press the Z key to buff yourself, or X key to buff your party. So you can't go solo, you can be in a party, and if, you know, people are in your party and they want somebody that's heavy hitting but also that small little bit of support, they're gonna want you, Holy Knight, aka Paladin, whatever you might be. They're gonna want you. Now, our Paladin here is a lot easier to understand than the Bard. It's basically straight and simple. To the point. You actually get some really good damaging attacks. They actually do some decent amount of damage, but also too, there is one thing here that Bard does not have. In our regular abilities, the Shield of Faith, it says the Paladin surrounds himself and his allies in a radius 24 meters of a shield that absorbs damage in the amount of 11% of the caster's maximum health for 6 seconds. So if you're on the run, you're on the fly, and you need to go ahead and absorb even a little bit of damage while still dishing out the damage too as well. Basically, you're going to go ahead, you're going to hit that as a shield, you're going to be running around, and you're still going to go ahead and be dishing out the damage. But this is really good to use even for the time being, even for a little bit of absorption. Just kind of click and go. It's actually kind of cool. And let's go ahead and take a look at both of our special abilities for the Holy Knight / the Paladin. So let's go ahead and take a look at our own personal buff here first. Basically, it says Warrior of Light. It says a blue radiance envelops the Holy Knight's blade. Ooh, the radius of normal attacks and fencing skills is increased by 30%. So that's going to be your reach. And then also your damage is up 40%. It says this skill can be used only after the Scale of Faith, which is this. So basically we have to fill this up first, obviously, is filled. It lasts until the scale is completely empty. As you can notice, unlike the Bard, there is no different chords or different bars to fill. It's just the one bar. Basically, we just fill up this. As soon as it's full, we can either go ahead and decide on which kind of buff that we want, and then basically we just go ahead and let loose. We let loose, so with it we either buff ourselves or we buff our teammates. Speaking of which, our other special ability, guys, Blessed Aura. Holy Knight is surrounded by a bright aura that increases the damage of allies in radius of 12 meters, so 12 meters from you, on 10%. Basically, it means everybody's damage is increased by 10%. That's within 12 meters of you. It can only be used after the scale's full, yada, 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 until the scale is empty. I think we got it. So, I mean, not as of detailed thinking or strategy as the Bard, by far, but you still get to choose. You still have that decision to make whether you want your distance, your radius to go up 30%, and then your damage up by 40%, which is a whole lot too, by the way, or to go ahead and increase the damage of your teammates by 10% within your 12-meter radius. And a little boost of the absorption shield, as we've seen, the Shield of Faith while you're on the run. As long as it's, off cooldown, you can go ahead and use it, so that's kind of cool. But let's go ahead and check and see what the Holy Knight, the Paladin, has to offer us in terms of damage and getting this bar up to what we actually needed to get up to in order for us to shine for our teammates. And I mean, the play is actually really cool. You get basically your ordinary attacks up on the top, and then down is kind of like more, I wouldn't say specialized, but they're kind of like, holy crap, they're a little bit more heavy hitting, as you can see. So let me go ahead and just spawn a couple more monsters. Our faith gauge is just about filled, so I wouldn't be surprised. Yep, one more attack. I'm gonna go ahead and use the Z. So we're gonna go ahead and buff ourselves up and see what that does here. And then basically we're just going to town on these guys. And it's basically game over for them now. I mean, like, this is actually really heavy hitting strong. And our bar is just about to go down. Yes, it is. So it's back to normal. And then basically we're just filling up our gauge back. And we'll go ahead and decide what we want to do, whether it's buffing ourselves up or buffing up our party, and that'll be it. I mean, we'll go ahead and check and see what it's like to buff up other people too as well. But after this, I'm going to show you guys the importance of the abilities themselves and kind of what we're talking about in terms of filling and emptying out your scale. And there it goes. It actually looks like it's all the way up. So let's go ahead and let's heal that for our ability. That's going to basically be used with our teammates too as well. So if your teammates are going to be needing a buff, or somebody's doing a special move or on a roll, you're going to want to go ahead and put this up for that extra 10% as it said it was. So before we go ahead and leave off with the Paladin / the Holy Knight, I need to go ahead and let you guys know something very important too as well. From our very first special ability, it's going to be this one, the Warrior of Light. It says that the radius of normal attacks and fencing skills is increased by 30%. So basically, these ones up here are going to be your fencing skills. So everything, all the ones in blue are going to be the ones in which the radius is actually increased by that 30%. Also, too, we have to remember that Blessed Aura, it says that the damage of allies in the radius of 12 meters is going to be increased by 10%. It says nothing about us, so basically this is going to be for your teammates, or you can buff yourself. And those are going to be the two options that you have pretty much the entire way. Also, with the details of the gauge itself, if we look at the bottom two dashes, it says the scale is not filled while special skills are active. The scale is emptied only when using special skills. So definitely keep that in mind with your Paladin too as well. And let's go ahead and just end it off with a boss. I mean, I really don't see as to why not. I mean, we might as well, right? Let's see if we can go ahead and get our gauge up as best as we can, as fast as we can, all of that good stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and use my shield now to absorb what we need to absorb there. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of get over here a little bit. There we go. Little by little, it looks like our gauge is basically halfway filled. Let me go ahead and get away from that. There we go. Just basically, I mean, just like anything else, we're dealing out as much damage as we can, as best as we can, to go ahead and fill that gauge up to use our specials. And we might be able to here in just a second. I really, like, usually we would hope that they would die, but I really hope he doesn't die just yet. Come on, man. Let me go ahead. Get out of here. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. All right, there we go. So basically, we are up. I'm going to go ahead and use my buff, since there really is nobody else to, to help out. I'll go ahead and just use this buff with our radius, and he's down. So there you go. And we still have to empty out half of our gauge. Yeah, but no, I mean, Paladin is really cool. I mean, it's a lot stronger than the Bard, as it seems, with the attacks, especially, the abilities. You get a lot more damage on each one, and it does still take some thinking. You still have to think about it. You got to think about whether you want to buff yourself or teammates if they actually need it. Also, too, you get that little shield, too, as well as you're running around. That's always a nice feature. And also, these special skills you need to use to go ahead and fill up the gauge and to be emptying the gauge, but pretty much plain and simple. I mean, with all of the classes, that's basically your goal, is to do as much damage. Like we said, it's a lot of DPS oriented, even with the support classes, to get those gauges up and filled to use those special abilities, and you're pretty much good as gold. I mean, I really like Bard, I really like Paladin. I think that they're good support classes, and if you guys are interested in going into it, there's always the preview mode. This is the only mode that we've been in this entire video, and it's really worked out for me well. So definitely, get to know your abilities. Play around with it. See if it's comfortable for you, because remember, once you pick a class, you've got a long story to go through. You've got quite the adventure. So it's going to be a huge decision for you, and I hope you choose well. I know you're going to choose well. And if you are interested in more Lost Ark videos, definitely follow, like, subscribe. I will see you guys on the next supportive video. It's Captain Blue Shell. I'm out.